in some rather strange times globally with this coronavirus outbreak, pandemic, however you want to call it. But it's changed a lot of how we do business day to day. The Bermuda Cricket Board has just surpassed their first deadline date for transfers. How has that gone over as far as the initial stage, and now we're into the next phase of it?
Well, first of all, we want to say good afternoon to everybody and hope that everybody's following the government directive and just doing what they can to make sure that we have control over this pandemic. As you see, things are not getting as smooth as possible. Otherwise, just look at my haircut. I'm growing an afro again, 1970, so that's the situation we find ourselves in, but hey, it is what it is. We have to add some light to the moment anytime we can, even though it's serious times. The transfer window, the first transfer window has closed, but not 100% of actually how many forms are still out there because at the moment with the fax machine and us not being in the office as we normally are, we just want to make sure that we tally up all the paperwork and make sure no one's out there waiting at the moment. However, having said that, the transfer window is still open. The regulations are that the first transfer window closed at March 31st at a fee of $100, and then it would open up again until the first weekend of the first game of the season at $150. So now that transfer window is still open, but we understand the situation we find ourselves in with players and executives not being able to get close to each other to have those discussions or even to sign off on the documents. So the late fee of $50, which would be an additional fee for the second window, $150 has been waived. So the window is still open and it remains at $100. We can't tell you exactly when that deadline is going to close because we are not certain when the league is going to start. But we would just say at this moment, if you have online capacity to send a document over, have someone print it off, sign it, and give it back to you, and you can scan it to us, we're very happy with that. If you can fax it to us, we're very happy with that. And if we have to wait until a later date to receive it, we're very happy with that as well. As soon as we know what the government's directive is on social standing in the community to be able to go out and have a normal interaction with each other, we will then send out another release to the players and the clubs. But at the moment, we are guided by the government directives and worldwide directives that is to remain away from individuals unless it's 100% necessary. And the Bermuda Cricket Board is no more important than the general health of the public and the island of Bermuda. So we are just doing all we can to play our role without any penalties or sanctions against players or clubs.
It was a week ago that the Cricket Board put out that the president and the chairman of cricket will be meeting with club presidents and secretaries via some form of communication. Has that conversation been held as of yet, or where are we as far as that?
No, that conversation hasn't been held as of yet. We are going to meet next week. That was always the plan, and we'll send out a notice to the clubs tomorrow through the traditional channels, the Bermuda Cricket Board database, and also through the media such as yourself. We definitely want to thank you at this time for doing all you can to get the message out. We were actually waiting for the directive from the government on April the 6th, which was the directive we believe was going to let us know where we would stand with as far as social standing and movement. But as we note, things are very fluid. Yesterday, we heard from the Honorable Premier of Bermuda that we are under a 2-week curfew starting, I believe, Saturday morning. So now we have the information in advance. We would just keep the same deadline as having to meet next week, which we believe will probably be later in the week, maybe a Thursday or Friday. No one's going anywhere, so they will be online. And we will at least give the clubs at least 4 days notice. So I believe it's going to be Thursday sometime between maybe 2 and 6 p.m. or maybe a little bit earlier since there seems to be press releases at about 5:30. So we'll see if maybe we can do it about 2 p.m. next week, Thursday. Maximum of 40 minutes or a little bit more, but we're just trying to get the pertinent information out there. And that's when the clubs and the presidents will have an opportunity to just discuss the hypothetical situation. No one knows where it's going. No one knows what's going to happen. But if we talk in advance, as soon as the green light's given, at least we've had some discussions about what the season could look like if there is going to be a season as well. Look at the EPL, their season is closing. Look at the ECB's cricket season. Test matches have been postponed. The Olympics, the Bermuda Cricket Board is not any different, not special. We don't know what's going to happen. And even if everything's open, is cricket going to be played? Is it in the best interest to have people congregate immediately? We're just doing our job to be as transparent and proactive, but we don't control what's going to happen. But we will follow any directive from the governor of Bermuda.
All right. Well, we look forward to any other updates that the Bermuda Cricket Board may have regarding the local cricket season, which was due to start or is due to start end of April. And until we get a further information from the government, as far as you say, going back to some normalcy in Bermuda, we wait to hear from all parties involved.
Yes, and I just want to say one more thing. This also applies to our youth league season. So the youth league season normally starts around the last week in April as well, and then we have a summer series. At the moment, of course, the youth season doesn't have a start date either, because that's also guided by the government directive. And then the summer season, we're also waiting to see how the youth season starts, to see if there will be a summer season, if the summer season will actually be the youth season. So without any directives, we just want parents and players to just be mindful that we are working. We don't have a lot of information for you right now, but we are working behind the scenes to make everything happen. And the most important thing we want to say to Bermuda, from the president of Bermuda Cricket Board and the executive, is, at the end of the day, be safe, stay indoors, follow the rules and regulations, so that when there is a time for all of us to be able to congregate again, we can do it in a safe manner, and that everyone can be there to be part of, the new start of the season, or just life back to normal. Just again, follow the rules and regulations of the government of Bermuda, follow the curfew guidelines, stay with your families, be safe, and hopefully we can see each other under better circumstances as soon as possible. And thank you to Islandstats again for always making yourself available to bring sports news to the general public.
Thank you, sir.